Hi, I'm Dave Blake with the Northwest Clean Air Agency. The Northwest Clean Air Agency is an agency of local government responsible for regulating air pollution sources in Island, Skagit, and Whatcom counties. Our damp climate here in the Pacific Northwest gives rise to one of the most common problems affecting indoor air quality: mold. When mold grows inside your home, it's unsightly, it smells, and if left untreated, it can do real damage to your property. Mold and water events can have a big impact on the resale value of your home. Exposure to mold has also been associated with health issues such as asthma, sinus problems, allergies, and more. We hope to convince you that it's in your family's best interest in terms of both money and health to prevent moisture and mold problems in the first place.
Open your mouth real wide.
Persistent exposure to mold in the home, including mold in damp environments, may certainly lead to irritating symptoms like irritated eyes, nasal congestion, sinus symptoms, and cough. But ongoing symptoms may be associated with more serious symptoms such as asthma and even upper respiratory infections.
In the next few minutes, we'll explain why mold grows indoors and how to prevent it. We'll also cover how to effectively get rid of minor mold contamination yourself when you find it, and when it's time to call the experts. At the end of this video, we'll list some valuable sources of information and additional resources. But first, some brief mold facts. Nothing is more natural than mold. Mold's a fungus. There are thousands of different molds on the planet. Like all living things, mold needs moisture to grow and survive. Outside in nature, mold's job is to digest and break down natural vegetation, like what's going on in this compost pile. But we don't want mold mistaking our buildings or possessions for a desirable food source. As a rule of thumb, mold outside good, mold inside bad. So, how does mold get into your house? Mold growing outside releases thousands of microscopic spores that easily float through the air and into your home through open windows and doors, or by pets and people who track them inside. These tiny spores are, for all practical purposes, impossible to keep out of your home. What really determines if mold will grow in your home is one key ingredient, and that's moisture. Mold spores plus a food source plus moisture equals mold in your home. Mold indoors likes to eat paper and wood products, and even some of the glues that hold them together. In addition to building and finish materials, many of our possessions can serve as mold food. Again, if moisture is added. Furniture, clothing, toys. Mold can grow on just about anything if it stays wet or damp.
There's really no practical way to keep out the thousands of microscopic spores or eliminate their food source. Spores are everywhere, so the key to preventing mold growth is to remove water from the equation.
The first rule of mold prevention is keep it dry. If there's no moisture, then there's no way for mold spores to grow. There are three general ways that moisture accumulates inside a house or an apartment. Living in the Pacific Northwest, of course, the first way that comes to mind is water that gets in from outside. Unwanted water can invade your home through leaks. Roofs leak, windows leak, doors leak, siding leaks. A wet crawl space under a home can add a whole lot of moisture upstairs as damp air rises through cracks and crannies around plumbing and wiring in the walls. The best and easiest way to prevent water entry from outside your home is by regular visual inspection. Plumbing leaks coming from inside the home are another unwanted water source. Be sure to check for leaks or condensation coming from drain pipes, washing machine supply hoses, clothes dryer ducts, and other pipes and fixtures. The third key source of moisture comes from within the home itself, from people and their everyday activities. You may not think about it, but every time we exhale, we're adding water vapor to the air. When we add other typical domestic activities that produce moisture, it becomes clear that we live very moist lives. The amount of moisture in the air is called relative humidity. When moist air comes in contact with a cool surface, it condenses back into liquid water. That's what causes the outside of your favorite cold beverage to sweat when it's humid outside. Inside your home, it's easy to see moisture condense on a window or mirror, but not so easy on a cool bedroom wall. These surfaces are commonly close to the same temperature, and you don't notice the condensation on the wall until the mold starts growing. Using a relative humidity gauge in your home is like using a gas gauge on your car, except instead of telling you how full your tank is with gas, it's telling you how full the air is with moisture. You can find one of these in most home electronics stores for about $30. In general, 30 to 50% relative humidity is a healthy range for your home. The higher the relative humidity, the more likely you're going to get condensation that can lead to mold growth. Even without a gauge, you can tell if there's too much humidity in your home when condensation forms on the room side of double-pane windows or on your cold water pipes.
Condensation can occur on any cool surface that moist room air can reach. Some are obvious, like windows and mirrors, but others need a thorough inspection to find, such as behind furniture placed against a cool exterior wall, or under carpet and padding. Condensation can also form inside wall cavities and in attics and basements when moist indoor air gains access to these cool surfaces.
Again, to prevent condensation and mold growth, you want to keep the relative humidity inside your home between 30 and 50%. The best way to do this is through proper ventilation. That is, bringing fresh outside air into your home, letting the moist inside air get out of your home.
If your home was built after 1991 in Washington State, it should have a home ventilation system. If you're fortunate enough to have one of these systems, learn how it is supposed to work and experiment with the manual and automatic controls to see what works best for your situation. Ventilation systems can be added relatively easily to most any home. This is an example of a whole house ventilation system, typically mounted in an attic, routed to various rooms of the house to pull moisture out of the home and exhaust the moisture to the outside. But even without one of these systems, moisture can be controlled with the dedicated use of bathroom fans and kitchen range hoods.
Using exhaust fans in kitchens and bathrooms will capture and remove large sources of moist air before it can escape into the house. A simple test for your fan is to see if it can hold up a piece of tissue paper. Make sure the fans are ducted all the way outside, not just into your attic. And let the fan run until the bathroom is dry, 30 to 90 minutes. Some older homes have no exhaust fans. Lucky to have a window that opens, right? In this case, when the relative humidity gets too high, you just have to take matters into your own hands. If you briefly open all your doors and windows, you allow colder outside air to flush out the stale, moist air trapped inside. If it's breezy, this will only take a few minutes. Then close up and reheat to 70 degrees. You can do this even when it's wet outside because exchanging and warming the outside air lowers its relative humidity and reduces the risk of condensation and mold growth. The heat loss in your home is minimal because only the cooler air needs to be reheated. Your walls, furniture, and other possessions will not have time to get cold. How often to flush your home depends largely on the size of the home and how many people and pets are living in it. More people in a smaller space means more flushing will be necessary. Another way to reduce relative humidity is with a dehumidifier. These cost a little over $200 and are especially useful in basements and daylight basements. But you should note that dehumidifiers only work where the temperature is 65 degrees or warmer. So far, we've talked about what causes mold and how to prevent it from growing in your home. But what do you do if it's already there? Next, some tips on mold cleanup. And the first step in mold cleanup is to identify and fix the source of moisture that caused the mold in the first place. Aim for a permanent solution, because if the moisture returns, so will the mold. The next decision is, do you clean or discard? It depends. Slick surfaced items can probably be washed clean. Porous or fleecy items may well need to be thrown away. If you're not sure about your sensitivity to mold, it's a good idea to protect yourself before you begin cleanup work. For small amounts of mold on slick surfaces like walls, you can mist it with soapy water. Then scrub it off and allow it to dry completely. Use tape and plastic to protect the surrounding area. Bleach really isn't recommended anymore. Detergent will work without bleach's problems. If the mold you find is dry, be careful not to disturb it. Those spores want to fly. Gently cover it with foil and tape until you're ready to clean it up. If you smell mold but don't see it, you may need to get aggressive with your inspection. This can mean looking inside wall cavities and other areas you suspect might be moldy from current or past moisture problems. For bigger jobs, detailed guidance for do-it-yourself mold cleanup is available from resources we list at the end of this video. But in a nutshell, if you're attacking mold growth in wall cavities or over larger surface areas, you need to ensure that mold spores don't escape from your work area to the rest of the house. So plastic sheeting is used to create small enclosures around the work area. And box fans can be placed in windows facing out to pull loose spores outside from the work area. Cut out and bag any moldy drywall, plus at least 2 feet of clean drywall in all directions, and dispose of it in your regular garbage. Wash mold off wood with plenty of elbow grease. Allow it to dry. Paint wood that was moldy with an alcohol-based shellac. Wipe down the inside of your plastic enclosure and bag it up for disposal. If your water leak is for sure fixed, you can now put your wall back together. Here are some examples of potential cleanup situations. Number 1 shows a situation you can easily clean yourself. For number 2, you can still do it yourself, but you'll want to isolate the work area with plastic sheeting and use a box fan to draw out any loose spores. If your situation looks like number 3, call the professionals. In general, testing for mold is not necessary. If you have obvious mold, you already know you have mold. You usually have no need to test to see what kind of mold it is. Only test if you need the results to make a decision. Testing for mold should be your last resort, and you will no doubt need some professional help. Thanks for watching. Please keep in mind that the information in this video is designed for use in cooler, damp climates like here in the Pacific Northwest. In hot and humid climates, you'll need more and different information. Remember, the best defense against mold is to keep your home dry, clean, and well ventilated. Stay tuned for a list of additional resources. On behalf of the Northwest Clean Air Agency, I'm Dave Blake.